Hello and welcome to the special talk program on Nepal television. Nepal, a small country in South Asia that has stood tall in the history as an independent country, as a sovereign country that has never been conquered by any foreign forces. However, in recent days, there have been disputes regarding territory between Nepal and its southern neighbor, India, regarding the territories in the far west, especially Kalapani, Lipu Lake and Limpiadura. Things have escalated to some extent and there have been diplomatic efforts being carried out to resolve it. And to talk about this issue after India rejected Nepal's updated map, the administrative and political map of Nepal, we have invited Minister for Foreign Affairs, Honorable PRADEEP Kumar Gyawali. Welcome to our talk show.
Thank you, Devanji.
To start this conversation, Honorable Minister, on November 2019, India published its new political map, where Nepali territories, which have been with Nepal historically, especially Limpiadura, Kalapani and Lipu Lake, were shown in its map. It was in almost 6 months ago. And now, after 6 months, we have also updated our map. There have been questions about the timing, about whether this was the right time that Nepal updated the political map. Is it just a response to what India did after the opening of the road to Mansarovar through our territory?
Thank you, Devanji, for raising very pertinent question. Let me clear that it is not an reactive action taken by Nepal. Rather, it is a legitimate and a timely step which is necessary. As you just mentioned about some important timelines, the current boundary between Nepal and India was defined by the Sugauli Treaty back in 1816. And none of these that treaty's provision, especially in western part, has been revised or changed. It was always remained same
since 1816.
1816. Yes, in some southern part there are some revisions. Nepal has gained more territories, but the Article 5 of Sugauli Treaty, which categorically tells that the western boundary is separated by the Kali River, has never been changed. So we just want to remind India about that provision, and we tried our best to solve this problem through diplomatic channels. There has been a mechanism agreed upon by two sides. After the frequent attempts to have the formal solution through the diplomatic channel, Nepal was in the position to update its new map.
It has been 6 months, so obviously there have been some diplomatic efforts. What were the diplomatic efforts that we carried out in these 6 months?
When the Earth edition of India's political map was published in 2nd November 2019, Nepal formally objected it, first through the press release and then through diplomatic notes. Not only we sent the diplomatic note, we proposed twice the two sets of alternative dates for the meeting of the foreign secretary level mechanism, but it was not listened, it was not responded. We tried our best again and again, and after March we all were focusing ourselves against the COVID-19 pandemic. We were thinking that at least status quo will be maintained. As the whole world is fighting against the COVID-19 pandemic, there will be no any that type of unilateral activities which can escalate the tensions. But unfortunately, at May of 2020, when India unilaterally inaugurated so-called link road to Lipulek, it was not only the breach of the prior understanding, but it was the breach of our formal position, which we expressed back in 2015 with both India and China.
Yeah. It seems to be the unilateral move of India, even this, let's say, efforts were going on throughout these 6 months. Is India adamant in accepting the historic facts that those territories belong to Nepal?
It is a bit difficult to explain the India's mindset.
Yeah.
However, when we go through the various comments, analysis, and coverage from Indian scholars, politicians, bureaucrats, and so on, a type of mindset that once we install formal and permanent structure there, then it will be a type of fait accompli. That means that will be already set, so Nepal cannot claim against those structures. So that will be a type of already India's possessed territory. That type of mindset I look when the lines and between the lines of the analysis, Indian strategists and policy makers, they say. However, we are in the position that there is no any other treaty rather than Sugauli Treaty which delineate the boundary between our two countries. So based upon the historical treaty, facts, maps, evidences, that should be solved in good faith. No any unilateral activities, cartographic manipulation or other type of infrastructure building cannot claim any legitimate type of right to the Nepal's sovereign territory.
As a landlocked country, for ages we have been dependent to India because we have been bordering India on 3 sides. Is India taking it for granted?
Let me clear one thing. Nepal is not a small country. It is a middle-sized country in terms of population and in terms of
boundary, it is the 84th largest country.
But in some corner of the Indian society, there is a type of narrative that Nepal is sovereign as other countries. So that type of mindset we sometimes look and face. But as you already mentioned, Nepal was amongst a very few countries which were never colonized. Nepal, despite of its difficult terrain, and despite of many challenges, it always remained its sovereignty, its independence. So that is the fact, and that should be respected by all. And second, we are in the age of interdependency, not single dependency. Let me share some examples. In terms of remittances, Nepal is, you may surprised, Nepal is the 7th largest source of remittances for India. Almost 4.7 billion US dollar.
That's the annual turnover and remittance from Nepal to India.
India, where Nepal receives less than half. So we are in the age of
So that proves it
yeah,
interdependent.
interdependent. So if anybody wants to make a type of narration that Nepal is dependent solely to India, and even if that is the fact, even if that doesn't mean that Nepal's territory, Nepal's sovereignty can be undermined.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, having listened to the narratives from the Indian side, Indian media, and our side as well, the source of the Kali River seems to be the crux of the problem. Is it the real case?
It is, I think, a type of artificial controversy, because there are so many doctrines developed in international laws and practices. Yeah. Basically, the three major revisions, three major criteria they define the source of the region, the boundary river, mainly the catchment area. Second, the length of the that particular trajectory of the river and tributary of the river, and third, the volume of the water which flows that very particular tributaries. Depending on all these three criteria, the river, which is called Khotiyangdi in local dialect, which originates from Limbiadua, is undoubtedly the origin of the Mahakali River. So that's why Nepal's claim is very, very legitimate. Yeah.
Well, as per international practice, what experts say, in cases where only a river, not the area, has been, let's say, marked as the boundary between any international two sides countries, it's always the source that determines the boundary. So in that case, also our claims seem pretty much legitimate.
Yeah, of course. And if you go through the details of the Mahakali Treaty, in other parts there are many objects which define the boundary. But for the western part, only the riverine issue is the boundary issue which define the boundary.
As we can see it on our screen as well, that's the territory that we are talking is the far on a corner, top right corner there, we can see it there. That's where the flow of the river has been changing, and accordingly India has put it inside its map, and now we have updated our map as well. This is the new map as we have updated.
Yeah.
Well, moving ahead in this conversation, Honorable Minister, the establishment of Indian Army bases in the 1960s during the Sino-India War, that was a fact. Did that help India lay the claim on those territory till now?
No, I don't think so. There may be some temporary arrangements, but that doesn't create any legitimate claim for the occupying, possessing the territory of Nepal. That was a mistake of the then governments. That should have been removed at earliest, but that issue was not raised in bilateral negotiation at that time, and probably it was a type of forceful claim by the India, but that doesn't mean any legitimate claim.
India's foreign ministry officially has said we do not accept the updated map of Nepal, and they have, however, called for diplomatic ways to resolve this problem. What solution does Nepal government see to this problem now? How we move forward now?
Nepal always is maintaining the principled position that all bilateral issues should be resolved through diplomatic means and channels. These are the issues left by the history. The current governments are not responsible for that. Current Indian government is also not responsible, but it was the unresolved issue of the history, which a type of creating a historical baggage for us, and which is creating a problem. And
for both sides to deal with.
Yeah, as Nepal and India share very comprehensive and very wide-ranging bilateral relation covering the cultural linkages, historical bonds, and the very close proximity in many terms. So such type of historical baggage should be put off in good faith. That's why Nepal's effort is to settle these problems through the diplomatic means.
Yeah.
If there was the will, power, and a type of realization of the historical mistakes, this problem has been already settled. Now, it is our
So that
responsibility.
realization has been lacking from the Indian side. That's very clear now.
Yeah, I think so, because the various evidences and happening which are occurring nowadays, we think that that type of lacking is there, but we still believe that realization should be there, because Nepal and should develop a very good mutual understanding and trust.
Well, after Nepal updated the administrative and political map, did you have any formal or informal discussion with your counterpart or any other, let's say, personalities on the other side of the world?
We have opened up informal channels. We are in communication, and we are trying our best to start up a formal diplomatic channel. But many well-wishers for India as well, they are trying their best to have create a conducive environment for the formal negotiation. If you look the ongoing debate within India, and if you follow up the statements of various policy makers, bureaucrats, intellectual persons and researchers, they are in favor of the settling these issues and creating a good relation with Nepal. So that type of advice given by the Indian society, I think will help the Indian government to formally begin the diplomatic negotiation, which we are awaiting since long.
So India has also said this has to be settled through diplomatic means. However, it has put a provision that it should be done after the pandemic subsides. How eager we are?
If pandemic was an obstacle to have organize a formal meeting, that should have an obstacle to formally inaugurate that unilateral infrastructure construction. There was no any hurry. So it depends how honest you are, how you want to solve the problem, how you want to proceed our bilateral relation. So it is not the issue of pandemic, because technology provides us a lot of facilities.
Lipu Lake is a three-country point involving Nepal, India and China. There have been rhetorics that this problem can be solved with the involvement of all three parties. Do you see the involvement of the third party in this case?
No. Though, when we will enter in the identifying the tri-junction between Nepal, India and China, then all three nations should sit together. But for now, it is a bilateral problem. It is a bilateral issue. So far, the China's involvement is concerned. I just would like to remind the Nepal's formal diplomatic note dated back in July 2015, when there was an understanding between Indian and Chinese leaders to open up the Lipu Lake Pass as a bilateral trade route, Nepal formally objected because that part was and is the Nepal's territory, and without consulting Nepal and without informing Nepal, any decision taken by two countries cannot be valid. That cannot be legitimate. So we opposed timely, and we are in a similar position. But now it is a bilateral problem. Let us solve the boundary issue with India first. Then comes the issue of finalizing the tri-junction between three countries. At the time, we will definitely sit together.
Well, critics have said the lack of presence of the state in those far-flung areas has also helped India claim those territories. Do you agree with it?
Yes, to some extent. It was fault of the governments in past. That's why government of Nepal very recently has decided to establish the BOP in Changru, and just yesterday the Nepal army has deployed there to open up the track construction which will connect the Darsula, the district capital, to the very northern part of Changru, constructing the new roads. We will provide the basic services to the people there so that they can feel more happier, and we can deliver the essential service to them.
Many bilateral mechanisms to resolve the border dispute that has been there since long, and namely the EPZ, the Eminent Personalities Group, has been pretty much active in the earlier past. Why is India not accepting the report of that particular mechanism that had the involvement of India as well?
We are a bit surprised actually, because in my opinion, the decision taken by the two Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli and Prime Minister Excellency Narendra Modi back in 2016 to establish the Eminent Persons Group in Nepal-India relation was a historical decision, and it was a very, very visionary step. The terms and references provided to it was to review overall gamut of the our bilateral relation and to recommend the policies and steps so that we can uplift, we can upgrade our relation as the requirements of the 21st century. I am happy to note that with the very arduous task of 2 years, the group has come with a unanimous report. It was not so easy, but thanks to their endeavor and effort, they have proposed very outstanding recommendations, which will uplift our relation in a newer heights, because there is no any alternative in our relation than the better, more trustworthy, predictable relation between our two great countries. So the receiving and the gradual implementation of the EPZ report will be a milestone in our relation.
Recent rhetorics of the Indian media has been pretty much aggressive regarding these issues, and they have even blamed Nepal of playing at the hands of our northern neighbor and politicizing the issue back home for consumption. Any comments on that?
Media as a watchdog, as an opinion maker, and as a voice of the people, it should base itself on facts, figures, realities, not the preoccupied mindset, biasness and prejudices. It should play a important role to bridge the gaps, to widen the gap. It should contribute to create harmony, not the hostility. I hope that Nepali media will play a more constructive role after that type of comments we are looking on the Indian media coverage. However, the silver lining is that many important scholars, despite of difficulties we can assume how they will face, they are making constructive contributions to sort out the problems, to narrowing down the gaps, and to build a trust level. And they are suggesting their government to play a constructive role in this regard. So I would just like to say it is a lesson to learn, less positively, but mainly negatively.
So it seems as if the Indian media is selling its hyper-nationalism, let's say, sentiments in this issue as well. To conclude this conversation, Honorable Minister, how will the government of Nepal move forward from here? And what, even in these difficult times of COVID-19 pandemic, what solutions now we have?
Actually, it was an unexpected scenario, because whole global community should have to focus itself on this unprecedented challenges we are facing now. However, we will definitely focus ourselves on the fighting against the COVID-19, but the national interest, national dignity, national sovereignty is pretty important. So we will try our best to bring all the differences on the table. We will submit the historical facts, evidences, and we will try our best to contribute to solve this problem and to create a new environment. For Nepal, India is a so close neighbor, a friendly country, which has contributed a lot for the development of Nepal. Vis-a-vis, Nepal also played its role, keeping in the mind the unavoidable proximity and interdependence. We should be able to solve this problem which was left by history.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister for Foreign Affairs, PRADEEP Kumar Gyawali, for coming onto our show in these difficult times as we are battling not only our sovereignty, how India is claiming those territories, and now we are trying to find out a solution to this, as we have been pretty much effortful in this period, and also the global pandemic of COVID-19. Thank you so much for giving your time to us.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're talking to Honorable PRADEEP Kumar Gyawali, Minister for Foreign Affairs, on the recent developments of Nepal's updated political map and the reaction from India, and what were the facts on which Nepal has updated the maps. Of course, the territories of Kalapani, Lipu Lake and Limpiadhura belong to Nepal historically. It's not about who used it when. These are Nepal's territories, and the facts have spoken very clearly about that. Thank you so much for being with us. Until next time, it's me, Devendra Subedi, saying bye-bye.